Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I'm Miss Lisa, and this is my YouTube channel where we talk about whatever I want to, that's science and math. And today we're going to talk about biology, and we're going to talk about cell reproduction. If you're doing this as a homeschool class, we're in chapter 22 of the biology book. If you just want to know about cell reproduction, come on in and watch the video. But what I'm going to say, I'm going to have a disclaimer right at the very beginning. And it's that we're going to be talking about something called mitosis and meiosis. That's the way I say them. I know some people say them a little differently. But, and these are, to be able to see it and to really understand it, we need a close-up where you can see what's going on. I'm going to sort of show you with my fingers what's happening, and I'm going to talk through the big concepts. But from the very beginning, I'm going to tell you to go back to YouTube or go just to the internet, and you need to look at closer pictures. You can also see pictures in your book. Probably even if you're not doing this class, you've got a biology book with pictures in it. The pictures in this book are not great. If you're following this class and you're doing the Glencoe Biology and Everyday Experience book, the pictures aren't great. They're not my favorite at all. So I'm going to just encourage, I'm going to talk through the ideas, but I want you to go and look up the stages of mitosis and meiosis and look at each one. And we're going to talk about them briefly, but you need to really see that. And I remember when I was teaching biology in public school years ago, I was like, I need a computer-made video where we can just see it all go through, where it would be telophase, anaphase, and as these things change, that you could see it line up and it'd have the labels underneath and it would move, and I just had it all in my brain, and I was like, that's what we need. Well, I've seen it since then. So I wasn't the only biology teacher who thought of it. And so it's out there where you can actually see, like, you know, illustration, animation of this. There's video out there of there. So that's number one. I encourage you to do that. Watch this video. Let me talk through it. Go read the chapter in your book, but also then after you do that, go research. That's you typing on the computer. Go research and find hopefully an illustrated, animated stages of mitosis and meiosis. Now, what are these big words I'm talking about? It all has to do with cell reproduction. And one thing that makes it confusing is you have two different sets of cell reproduction. There's the everyday cell reproduction. Your skin cells are getting sloughed off constantly. So they fall off, and then your body's got to make new skin cells. That's why your dust is. That's why you have dust in your house. It's your skin cells coming off. You can scratch your skin in the light and you see all this dust come off. It's gross, but you know, that's what biology is. It's gross. So, so your skin is constantly sloughing off, and you've got to make new ones to replace it. And all of your cells are like that. All of your cells, they wear out, and your body has to make new ones. So, like, you know, so you're constantly getting new cells. You're growing new hair. You're getting new skin. Your organs are regenerating. So there's always ones getting old and dying and new ones being made. So when it makes a new cell, it's got to be the exact replica of the one it's replacing. So if I'm losing a skin cell, I need another skin cell to replace it. So that's your regular everyday cell reproduction. It's just cells are always reproducing because you're always wearing out parts and you need new parts, just like in your car. So that's mitosis. That's regular, everyday, what's happening constantly. But we also, not only do we need to regenerate our cells, but as a species, we need regeneration, meaning we need children. We need a young born, no matter what the species is. So we need to be able to produce sex cells, cells that when they get together will make a new organism. And if you remember, each organism has a certain number of chromosomes that is characteristic of that species, that animal. Whatever it is, it has a certain number that it always has. So now think with me. If you got a full set of chromosomes from your mom and a full set of chromosomes from your dad, you would not be human anymore, because you'd have double the number of chromosomes, and you wouldn't, part of being a person is having the number of chromosomes that humans have. Okay, did you follow that? That's what I'd be asking if we were face to face. I'd be looking in your eyes. I teach public school too, and I'm always like, I gotta see your eyes. I gotta see your eyes. I gotta see if you understand. And of course, the kids will put their head down or not look at me. Look at me. Look at me. So you're not here, but I'm still trying to say, do you understand? You feel free to talk back to me as you watch these videos. It's only natural for you to answer me. Anyway, back on track. Okay, so when you produce sex cells, ones that are going to be for the new organism, you have to go through and cut the chromosomes in half. So you get half from your mom and half from your dad. So it's a special process in meiosis where first it's a process of cutting it in half, cutting the number of chromosomes in half before the genetic material from the mom and the genetic material from the dad get together and make the new organism. Now, not only that, with meiosis, is its goal halving the chromosomes. The other goal of it is that it's like shuffling cards. Part of life is diversity. You don't look exactly like your siblings unless you're identical twin or triplet. Unless you're identical, you don't look like your brothers and sisters, and that's because the cards get shuffled. The genes get shuffled. And then also with the genes, you get one from your mom and one from your dad. One is dominant, one's recessive, only one gets expressed. And we're going to do a whole lot more with genetics, but just know that you get one from your mom, one from your dad. One is dominant, one is recessive. The dominant one gets expressed. Now, if they're both recessive, the recessive gets expressed, or if they're both dominant, the dominant gets expressed. And we're going to do a whole chapter on genetics. But just know that that's why things can skip a generation. You can have the gene for something, say it's red hair, and say if red hair is recessive, then it might skip a generation, and then the next one would have it. I think red hair is dominant though, but I don't know. I don't know that. I've had genetics. I had it. I'm a biochem major, and so I had genetics in college, but biology is not the main thing I teach. Full disclosure here. I'm certified in chemistry and physics, and those are rarer certifications, so that's what I usually end up teaching. But I have taught, I'm certified in biology. I actually have a degree in biology. It's a biochem kind of degree. And I'm like one class away from a pure biology education major too. I'm certified in biology, but it's not my primary field of teaching. The thing I teach most often is chemistry and physics, probably about equally. All right, and maybe a little bit more chemistry than physics. But anyway, I love biology, otherwise I wouldn't have majored in it, because it's fun. I like living things. I like how beautiful this world is that we live in, the amazing variety of all of it, the cuteness of the babies and the beauty of the flowers. It's just awesome to me. And so I love studying biology, and I just am always amazed, like, isn't that cool? Isn't that neat? So anyway, back to our big ideas of cell reproduction. All right, so now, just as a review, we've already talked about this, that there is sexual and asexual reproduction. So what's the difference? The difference is asexual reproduction is when things can reproduce without a partner. They can just reproduce by themselves. And so mostly lower life forms. Yeast is one. Yeast is a microscopic animal that can, it just pinches itself in half. The two new cells are identical to the one that started. They're called daughter cells, and off they go, and they grow, and then they pinch themselves in half. Hydra is another one. We've talked about hydras. They look like this. They walk. I'll do my air quotes. They walk by doing handsprings, so that's cool. And how they can reproduce is they can just make a new one grow out of their side. So like if I could just have a new Miss Lisa growing out my side and I'd chop it off and it goes off doing handsprings, I'd be a hydra and I can reproduce asexually. But as animals and plants get more complex, usually they reproduce sexually? It's because it gives greater variety, and greater variety is good. Variety is very good, and you can support more complex life forms. So now, they did try through science to clone a sheep, and that would be asexual reproduction. They took this sheep named Dolly, and Dolly was a special genetically designed sheep. And the idea behind all of this was that there are babies that are born, they're like micro preemies, that they thought it would be really good if they could make this sheep that would give milk, that by having human genes spliced into it, if I understand it correctly, so that it could get, the sheep could be milked to give milk that would be sort of a hybrid human sheep milk that would be good for preemie babies. That was kind of the idea behind it. So they took this special genetically engineered sheep and took some of its cells and took the genetic material out and stuck it into a different egg, and then implanted it in a sheep, and it grew, and then we had our new first ever clone of an animal. So it was a sheep that actually reproduced asexually because they got the entire genetic sequence just from one parent, just from the sheep, Dolly. So, or maybe Dolly was the baby and there was a different mama. But anyway, from the female sheep. And that was the whole point of all that. It didn't work real good. I don't think that the sheep turned out being very healthy. It died. So, but there is a lot of research being done right now of trying to get it for, to use genetic engineering in animals to produce the bioproducts we want. So like I heard a long time ago that they could grow a human ear like on the back of a pig and then chop it off and transplant it onto a person. There is some weird stuff going on in biology research right now. You can read about it, but and there is a lot of debate about if it's ethical or not. Is it ethical to slice human genes into a sheep? A long time ago when my kids were little, in the earlier 2000s, there was a superhero show, and I don't remember which one it was. It might have been Batman Beyond, but it was, they had this thing where they were called splicers, and they would breathe in something and they would turn into snake people. And I thought, that'll never work. That, you know, that's just crazy. Well, now they've got something like that. We have the CRISPR that can go in and edit genes, and people are wanting to do just like that and be sort of human animal hybrid things. So anyway, lots of weird research, but and a lot of debate on whether or not this is ethical or not. So I'll leave that up to you. I just teach biology. I don't teach ethics. All right. I'll leave that to your mama. She can teach you about that, and your daddy. All right. So mitosis is body cells, and it is a way for growth and repair. So that was our first idea. And when this happens, when a cell, first it starts with replicating everything, replicating the genetic material, and then it pinches in half. So that's basically what happens with mitosis. Now, for your lab this week, what I want you to do is, if you have a microscope, I want you to get some slides of mitosis and meiosis and look at them. If you don't have a microscope, I want you to go online and I want you to see it. I want you to see these things. So there is a lab where you are to look at, it looks like those are onion cells, maybe, body cells. They look like some sort of plant in your lab book, but you can look at that. Now, if you're following along in the book, you can see the steps of mitosis on page 468. Now, how the cell starts off is called interphase. That's just regular old cell. And it has the regular number of chromosomes. For people, it's 46. So in my arm right now, I have a cell. It's got 46 chromosomes. They call that 2N because N is the number of chromosomes when it's a sex cell. So 2N is regular, meaning you've got half from your mom, half from your dad. You're regular. You're a human, or whatever animal this is. Okay, so then what happens is prophase. The nuclear membrane disappears and the chromosomes replicate themselves. So instead of looking like one line, they look like an X. Then in metaphase, the X's all line up in the middle of the cell, and then from these little things that look kind of like stars, they're called centrioles, they send out fibers that connect like fishing lines into the X's, and one half gets pulled toward one centriole and the other half goes to the other one. Then, and that's during anaphase, they get pulled apart. And then the nuclear membrane starts pinching it in half, not nuclear membrane, the cell membrane pinches it in half. It becomes two cells, and each of them have the correct number of chromosomes, 2N. And that's called teleophase, where it breaks in half. Okay, so each one of these that's broken in half are the daughters, and they each have a complete set of chromosomes. And that's mitosis, and that's what's going on in every cell in your body. Now, with meiosis, instead of the one chromosome doubling like that, instead, you end up with two X's. So you end up with 4 chromosomes. This is the cards shuffling. And it can make, instead of making 2 daughters that are alike, it can make 4 daughters that are all different. And we're going to talk more about that as we get into it. But that's the thing. So first you have 2 sets of X's, and the X's pull apart. And then each X is pulled into just a line. And they get shuffled, and they do a lot of shuffling, and we'll talk more about that when we do the genetics chapter. So what they call these steps, and I don't think your book really goes through the terms, but you need to learn them, and you can learn that as you do more research. But they use ones to it. So it's prophase 1, where everything is duplicated. You have two X's. And then it goes to metaphase 1, where they line up in the middle. Then anaphase 1, where the X's pull apart. And then it goes through telophase 1 and cytokinesis, where they pinch in half. So you start off with 1 cell, then you get 2. Then each of these 2 pinch in half again. And each of these daughter cells at the end, if it's human, only have 23 chromosomes. So these are going to be eggs or sperm ready to unite to be a new organism, to be a baby. Or if it's a different organism, it won't be 23. Different organisms have a different number of chromosomes. We're human, we're 46. So then it's 2. So then once they end up, then it goes through prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, telophase 2, or teleophase, I've heard it pronounced both ways, and then cytokinesis again, and you get 4 daughter cells. Okay, now, and we'll talk more about what happens with those daughter cells at the end when we go more into human genetics. But those are the steps. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. So if it's a male sex cell only made by males, it's called sperm. Female sex cells are only made by females. They're called eggs. When they unite, it's called fertilization. And then the new organism has a full set of chromosomes. You don't produce sex cells until you go through puberty. So children don't have them, but once you go through puberty, then these sex cells are produced. Now for girls, they actually have the pre-egg in them when they're born, but then they don't start developing until they go through puberty, and then one is released a month, and that's why girls have their monthly cycle once they've gone through puberty until they go through menopause, and then no more eggs, no more cycles. So, but guys start producing the sex cells when they go through puberty. They don't have the pre-cells the way the girls do, if my memory serves me correct. All right. It does go ahead and talk about this. Okay, so if it's male, I thought this was in the genetics chapter. If it's male, when you get to the 4 cells at the end, there's 4 sperm that are ready to go and try to be part of fertilization. All 4 of them are good. They're all 4 different. The cards have been shuffled. They all have half the number of chromosomes, but they're ready to go. With the female, when it divides, it's uneven. It doesn't divide exactly even. And these smaller eggs to be, are called polar bodies, and they don't continue developing. So of the 4, 3 of them end up being little and no good, and 1 egg is bigger. It gets all the cytoplasm. It's bigger. Sperm are very tiny. Eggs are big. Eggs are about as big as the printed dot on a page. But so that egg then is fertilized, but it only makes 1 egg. So the whole process, it shuffles the cards and gets the chromosomes down to half, but it makes 1 big egg because it has to have the nutrients in it for the developing new organism. Okay? So it talks about aging and about that this rate of mitosis slows down as you get older. Not as much mitosis going on. Cancer is when things overgrow. Cancer is not like an invader, like a bacteria or a virus that can be triggered by it, but it is when body cells reproduce at a normally fast rate. So if you have a cancer tumor, it's you. Isn't that weird? But it's just not supposed to be there. It's something gone wrong. And there's different things that can cause cancer and different ways to help prevent cancer, like not smoking. You shouldn't smoke. It increases your risk of getting cancer. All right, so that's it. Also, while we're together, and I can tell you this, what's supposed to be our next unit, if you're doing this as a class, is plants. This is January here, if you're going through the year. And we can't see the plants we're supposed to see. I have no idea why this book put plants in the middle of the book. But we're going to skip it. We're going to do it at the end once we have plants growing that we can look at. You know, there's no reason to order stuff from a biology supply company. Nature is going to put plants right out there in your backyard for you to go look at. So we will. I haven't decided if we're going to do chapter 23 yet, which is plant reproduction and development. I'm thinking not. I think we're going to skip 23, and because we want to look at plant reproduction and development when there's flowers blooming, not now. Because guess what? Flowers are how plants usually reproduce. So we're going to skip 23. The next video you watch will be 24. We'll go on to animal reproduction. And I'm actually going to combine a couple of chapters there too. So we're going to skip on to animal reproduction and then animal development. I think those are the 2 I'm going to do together. And then we'll keep on going, and then at the very end of the year, we'll go back to plants, because by then there'll be plants outside, because right now it's the middle of winter, and yeah, there's some plants, but not the flowers I want you to go dissect. All right? So science is great, math is great. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.